Hey, Alex, thanks for joining us. We're here at the UP.Summit here in Dallas. All I had to do to gain admission here is put on this hat. You had a much harder and longer journey. Maybe just to give people some context of how did you get here from Ukraine, and just to give an idea of how hard it is now for the people of Ukraine, even your trip here.
Right. Yeah, actually it took me a bit longer. Yeah, I actually was on the front line, right? We were deploying drones there. And so it took me, all in all, almost 2 days. First is driving more than like 20 hours, maybe around like 24 hours drive through all Ukraine. Ukraine is a big country, to the closest airport, which is in Poland, because airspace is closed in Ukraine because of the war. So to Poland, and then 14-hour flight from Poland to here,
Yes.
Texas.
Yes.
And when I arrived here, it's like a new reality. You've been, although it's 2 days, but still, when it's one journey, it's such a contrast, right?
Yeah.
You've been on the front line, and you are in Texas when everybody is optimistic. It's great.
Yeah,
It's
well,
great.
but it's also a reminder that as good as things are in a place like this, I mean, you're dealing with a very different reality. Now, you're a former minister of finance, used to oversee security forces, head of the war. Now you're in special operations on the front line. Tell us what it's like day to day in Ukraine right now.
Well, it depends where you are, right? At the beginning of the war, like the war was felt everywhere. Now, in cities like Kyiv, for example, you don't see it that much. So it allows at least to bring some life, which is important, right? So because of our armed forces, civilian population now at least have some, prospects, and they can build some plans. It's very, very important. But that's actually illusion, because unfortunately, Russians bombed Ukraine, attacked with missiles across all territory. It would happen any minute, so nobody feels safe. So it's not only risk on the front line, but actually remote areas. Even if you're on the border with EU, European Union, right? 1,000 kilometers from Russia, they still can bomb, and they do it just to show, to demonstrate that they can reach anyone.
Yeah.
And what is upsetting, sometimes they actually get to the European territory of NATO. And you would expect there will be some reaction, but even in this case, there is no reaction. It just shows that still there is this fear of Russia. But Ukrainians have no fear.
You've seen that with the battle. Now, you have a very interesting perspective in that you both come from a financial background, and you understand, and you also a military background.
Yeah.
What can we had a very inspiring talk from Boris Johnson, the former UK Prime Minister, yesterday about the need to double down and support Ukraine.
Sure.
What is the best way the West right now can help your country?
Well, first of all, just to understand what is the reality. Reality, Ukrainians are defending our country, right? So we don't need any troops on our ground, right? There are enough motivated soldiers, officers who will defend the country, right? What we need is weapons. And so we are confident in our victory. Unfortunately, it's only a question of time and how many people will lose. So all this support that we're asking and we're receiving, by the way, it's the way to help to save life of Ukrainians. And this is, in every life, it means it's a family, it's children, either those who were born or could have been born, right? So it's a tragedy when a person being killed. So this is about this. I think it's very, very important. So what we need the artillery, we need the F-16s, and there is big progress now. Tanks, we need more ammunition. Ukrainians are very, very quick in learning how to use them. Right, very quick.
Well, famously,
and
it's always been a region that innovated with technology, and especially in defense.
And we actually, at this stage, so motivated that people are ready to learn 25 hours in a 24-hour period, right?
Yes.
Or maybe even 27 hours. It's just, they're so motivated because they understand by doing this, they bring victory forward.
It's life or death. There's a large majority in Europe and in the U.S. that supports this fight, but there are a small but vocal minority that are now questioning support, especially financial support for Ukraine. What's your message to them?
Well, first of all, what I've heard here is many people approached me and saying disregard, right? And I believe them. I believe the people who I talk to disregard these messages because, there is a widespread support among American population, bipartisan support of Ukraine, and I feel it. Yeah, there are some voices. I also associate it with my potential internal politics. It's election period. I sincerely hope, and I would like to hope, that somewhere deep they also understand that the support is needed, but maybe just political environment requires them to say this. This is my hope. If it's not the case, then they need to understand that decision, if Ukraine is not supported, fundamentally, they're destroying the values on which United States has built itself. Freedom, right? Defending the country, being independent, democracy. If you don't support it in the other country, you kill it in your own country, right? This is a suicidal move. And eventually it would mean that at the moment Ukrainians are fighting, but if it's not stopped, then unfortunately Americans will have to go to war somewhere else. And it's a very complex mechanism. The problem can pop up somewhere else, whether it could be China, it could be somewhere else, it could be the same Russia, right? You never know. It's an explosive situation. So you need to be treated like this.
It's it's very rare you have a war that's so morally clear, but you're fighting that. So why are you here? Tell us why you're here in Dallas at UP.Summit, looking at all this future of mobility, aviation, et cetera. What brought you here?
Well, because we're here also presenting our solutions, which are solutions that we are, well, first in civil life, but personally, I'm more responsible for defense, and something that we're gonna use in Ukraine. We're using in Ukraine and we're gonna use in Ukraine. And so we would like to use these brains to help us to develop it and to deploy it in our country. This is a part of support that actually could be instrumental to our victory. And I see a lot of excitement. People would like to help. And so that for me means that I came here, I will leave with the results.
Yes.
And that is important.
Well, it's always, war is a terrible thing, but it's also developed some of the great technologies in history, whether it's radar or sonar, all sorts of things like that
if you don't mind, I'll give you an example.
Please.
I'll give you an example. In a normal company, like typical company, right, you develop a product and you like to be perfect with it. And engineers would like to move forward. It will take as much time as necessary, but to make it perfect. When we are in a war environment, right, you need to bring product tomorrow as soon as possible, because if you don't do this, people will die. It's additional pressure, and sometimes you're making some compromises. At the end of the day, it's not about having something perfectly done. You need to have something which is practically optimal for this point of time, that could do the job, perform the mission, right? And this is what we're about, right? We do not produce extremely sophisticated things because we don't have time for that. And in fact, the marginal benefit from this, minimum, right? So we produce something that is, could be deployed tomorrow, in 2 weeks, in 2 months, but not longer. This is critical because we need it now in Ukraine, not in 2 years, now.
What's the technology you're seeing here that you think you can get onto the battlefield soonest?
Well, there are a couple of guys we spoke with. They have the interesting drone solutions, obviously developed for civilian use, but civil use. But we already spoke to them. They're ready to cooperate with us to convert them for a dual use, to say. And this is, you see, and this is actually maybe my role, because I'm just looking and thinking, that could be used for that military purposes. It's maybe others don't see it, but I can see it. And there were some interesting leads here.
We're reaching a very large business audience. I know, you have to win the war first, but what, in terms of the rebuild, what can people who want to support Ukraine and want to get ready to have a better Ukraine emerge and have it come back and come back stronger, what can they do right now?
Well, first of all, they need to support the war efforts now, because as you said, no victory, there is nothing to rebuild, right? Why would you rebuild, dictatorship Russia, for example, right? So it's about supporting the war efforts and bringing victory forward. But after that, Ukraine will provide an enormous opportunities. When we win the war, it will be extremely vibrant environment. Everybody will want to be there. It will be a very creative country. This is happening. It has examples in the history, right? And this is the time when business needs to move in. A lot will depend on the private sector and entrepreneurship. And we have a lot to learn from Americans, or maybe not to learn, but bring Americans to Ukraine.
Yep.
So it will be land of opportunities. This is actually what people need to look now, and especially your audience is about that,
Yep.
right? So be ready to go to Ukraine. There will be plenty of opportunities, not rebuilding Ukraine,
Yep.
but building new Ukraine, right? On new values, on new opportunities. This country deserves to be prosperous, and it will be prosperous.
As you know, I was in Ukraine last year. The desire is there. You can feel it to win the war and to create a new country. So we appreciate everything you're doing. Please be safe on the front lines when you go back, and thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.